Hey everybody, this is Connor here, and welcome to Patreon Radio. And today I want to talk about a way of exploring the world and a way of just being with your life. And these are ideas that I have worked with for many, many years, and a lot of them come from the work of Dolores Cannon. So I'm going to put a link to her beneath this. Dolores Cannon was an incredible woman who, through hypnotherapy treatments, was given a lot of universal wisdom. So all this wisdom came to her, and then she shared it. And I think the interesting thing about this wisdom, as I kind of break down for you how I work with it, is really just to feel it through your body. I think it can be a really good way to digest all information these days, especially as we move into a kind of a period where there's so little visual clarity, with AI and AGI and things like this. What we see, we can't believe. So it's really important to hear information, digest information with all of your body. So to see if you resonate with it. I think that's really useful. I know myself, when I was first sort of coming to spirituality and so on and so forth, I'd read certain books and they would create physical sensations in my body. I would feel like kind of a cellular aliveness inside my body because I was reading certain books. I remember the John Singer book, or Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, how that had that strong embodied effect on me. And it was very interesting. So a lot of information you can understand through just the filter of your body, and that will help you to discern whether this is for you or not for you. That's it. So I want to talk about this. So this idea is that Earth is a school. Okay, we can begin to look on Earth as a school. We come here to train. We come here to practice. We come here to learn. We come here to make mistakes. Earth isn't a finished place. You and the body that you inhabit are not finished things. They are really works in progress. And I think that idea helps to dispel a lot of the shame we might experience from not being perfect. So I know for me, for example, when I kind of look at many of the decisions I've made in my life, many of the decisions I continue to make, and some of the situations that I throw myself into, it can be easy for me to just go, Jesus Christ, Connor, what the fuck are you doing? But recognizing that this Earth is a school, and our work here is simply to experience and learn lessons, I feel is very forgiving. I feel it allows me to be much more experimental with my life. It allows me to be much more kind of gracious with myself too. So right now, as you're listening to this, it could even be interesting for you just to sort of go, well, okay, with this idea that Earth is a school, what lesson am I learning right now? If I were to describe, say, even 2025 or the scenario that you're in, the scenario that I'm in as like a subject, what do you think that subject might be? Is it like, are you learning all about relationships? Are you learning about abundance? Are you learning about expression? Are you learning about self-love? These are all the kind of the lessons that you might be learning right now. You might be learning a lesson on boundaries. And the thing to kind of note with this is, the thing that I kind of take away from this is it really gives me, it helps me feel courageous. If I go, okay, something comes along in my life and I go, okay, this is a bit risky, this doesn't feel comfortable. And if I'm reminded that Earth is a school, it enables me to be a little braver. It enables me to take more risks. The risks are important because often when we're not taking the risk, we fall into stagnation and depression. So the risk is important in that it brings us to a new level of our education. The risk is like you've kind of signed up for a special class, a special course, and now you're propelled into that. The next kind of point about this Earth School theory of life is that quite often the hardest part of being a human is the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of not belonging, the feeling of not identifying. And I think if you can run those feelings through this lens of, okay, Earth is a school and I've come here to learn, then that makes sense. Perhaps we're not from here. Perhaps this isn't really the home. If we've come here as an experience, if we're here to kind of just play with life and learn how it is to be a human, yet maybe our soul is not actually human. Maybe our soul is infinite, our soul is divine. And that's perhaps why we don't feel like we belong here. Perhaps that is why we sometimes feel lonely, or we feel like we can't relate, or we feel isolated in this existence. So often I think we feel lonely, we feel like we don't belong, and we think we're doing something wrong. But maybe it is we just don't feel like we belong because we're not really from here. The next point about this idea of Earth as a school is that we come to this school with a mission. There is, you have come here with a goal. It's not just, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to check things out, but you've come here with a goal. Like, say, someone might go to university with the idea of, I'm going to emerge an engineer, or I'm going to university because I want to learn to be a doctor and then go cure cancer, for example. So this is you and me. We've come here with a mission in mind. The way we connect to our mission is we begin to sort of look for our passion. Like, what's the thing that I'm passionate about? If you ever listen to any of the teachings of Abraham Hicks, they sort of describe it in this way, that you kind of, the thing that you're looking for, the way that you connect to your mission is just to choose the most exciting thing. Always choose the most exciting thing. Now, when I say exciting, that can also be the scariest thing, right? Because as we kind of begin to look on the world a little bit more like a game, a little bit more like a school, then it follows that the exciting thing is often the thing that kind of terrifies us. Oh, like leaving my job, leaving the relationship, moving to a new country, expressing myself on social media. All of these things are scary, yet they're also the most exciting thing. They connect you to your passion. So it's really important. It's really important to the enjoyment of your stay on Earth during this mission, during this time, that you know what your mission is. It's really important that you connect to your mission. I feel a lot of the work of this Patreon group is helping us to connect to our missions, helping us to sort of see the way we connect to our mission is really just through our subconscious. Our subconscious knows the mission. The subconscious will reveal itself to you in dreams. It'll reveal itself to you through instinct, through pings, through little hunches. It's so important that you can kind of get into this habit of creating space for the subconscious to communicate with you. So the way that I've always talked about this is sort of surrendering to the moment a little bit. I know that can sound kind of cliche, but this sense of like when you have free time to just allow yourself to be. Like I quite often I do this thing where I will just wander in the daytime. I'll just walk around without my phone and I'll just try and be. And in that sort of state of being where I'm not really doing anything, I'm not producing anything, I'm not achieving, I'm not communicating, in that state of being, my subconscious will find ways to communicate with me. And it will find ways to communicate with me through like a ping, like an instinctive little kick, or it'll find ways to communicate with me through some form of synchronicity. I'll meet someone with a message, or lately, what I've noticed too is my subconscious begins to speak to me through slogans on people's t-shirts. You might think I'm going crazy, but I wander around and sometimes there are messages, like words on people's t-shirts that speak directly to what I need to hear at that time. Now, of course, if you're not open to this, you're not going to receive any of this. So that's the important part, is like getting yourself open to this. Meditation is also another way that you can connect to your subconscious. Anything like this, automatic writing. It's sometimes, sometimes I do tapping. That nervous system work, tapping, and I find that sometimes just connects me. The way that it connects me is it disconnects me from conscious thought. It disconnects me from the to-do lists. It brings me back into a place of deep relaxation where my channel to the subconscious is much more open. Another thing to bear in mind with all of this perspective on the earth as a school is that this mission that you have changes. And how it changes is this, and maybe I'll just give you a personal example. My life has recently changed quite dramatically. It's changed dramatically in that myself and my partner, we've adopted 2 dogs, and we're now living together. And before that, we had this sort of situation for a couple of years where we lived 10 minutes apart. We had separate lives. And it felt to me like that had been my previous mission had been to kind of authentically live that life as much as possible. Even though I felt a certain amount of like sort of societal pressure to live with someone, I felt a certain amount of societal, I felt a kind of like a certain amount of conditioning to like, oh, you have to do this. This is something that you do in relationships. I felt a little bit of consensus reality knocking at my door, but I wasn't ready for it. I wanted to live alone. I wanted to just enjoy the freedom of being in my own space. And also I kind of wanted to honor the grieving that I've kind of been going through. It's been almost 2 years since my dad died. And with his death just came a huge amount of turmoil in my life. And I really wanted to create enough space and set boundaries to protect that space. And I feel like that was my last mission. I feel my last mission was to unashamedly do what I wanted to do. And I think I kind of mastered it to a certain extent. I really was just enjoying being on my own, enjoying being in my own space, enjoyed not being responsible for anybody else. And kind of connecting to just enjoying abundance, enjoying joy, enjoying elements of luxury, and just really kind of, I guess you could say, healing myself from what had been a period of like huge stress around. Like, it took my dad a long time to die. He was seriously sick for about a year before he died, but had been sick for 25 years with all sorts of cancer before that. And the effect it had on my body was just tremendous. So what was kind of interesting about that was I really felt that was my mission, to embody that, unashamedly embody that. And as that mission drew to a close, this new one just suddenly sprung up. And that is all about like being with someone, having responsibility, kind of moving into this place of taking care of others, really learning to kind of manage my nervous system when I don't always have space around me. Learning to really kind of like let love in at a much closer level. So that for me feels like that's the kind of current mission I'm on. The current mission is to step into like whatever new model of person I'm being here. And that's what it is. So I think it's good to just sort of realize here like what mission you might be involved in. And a good way to sort of explore your mission. And you know, at some level, guys, there's like the grand missions, and then there's the subtle mission. I feel in some ways like another mission of mine is just really to kind of understand and be compassionate towards my mother. You know, it's a very subtle mission. But then the grander mission might be something else. It might be to just be an example of a completely liberated person. And I think one way that you can kind of connect and even journal about this idea of like, what is your mission, is to kind of answer these three questions. Number one, what have I always known deep down? What have I always known deep down? What have I always known to be true deep down? And maybe this is something that kind of like you couldn't always express, you didn't always feel was safe for you to say, but what have you always known deep down? Number two, think about your wounds. What are the wounds that you have carried? How have they shaped you? What's the wisdom that you gathered from that? I always talk to people about this idea, like your wounds set you up for your purpose in later life. Your childhood is your initiation. And then as you mature into adulthood and later age, that initiation turns into your mission. So I know for myself that sort of like I grew up with an alcoholic parent, a kind of a cold religious mother, and in a way this sort of set me up, this initiation set me up to be quite good at just reading other people. I've become quite good at just like understanding other people, but also having like a deep connection to spirituality, which my mother also did, but she kind of like, she also very much was connected to religion. You know, I think my mother didn't have the confidence to just own her personal spiritual journey. She always had to bring it through the safe filter of religion. Like, it was really funny, I was having a conversation this morning about how Satan was so present for me as a child growing up, you know, like the devil and things that were demonic. And I can remember even my mother at one stage saying that yoga was demonic. So yeah, anyway, I'm digressing. But that idea, like, look at some of the wounds that have shaped you, and where's the wisdom that you've taken from that? That'll point you towards your mission. And then the third question to really ask on this is, what do I do that brings me huge joy and serves others? So I know right now, like for me, that's very simple. I'm doing this. It brings me huge joy to talk into microphones. And I guess it serves others, or else you've all just been very, very kind to me. But maybe there's something that you can connect to there. What do you do that brings you joy and then serves others? Now, for a lot of us, this question is difficult because we don't see how it serves others. We sometimes see, well, I do this thing and it gives me loads of joy, but it's just giving me joy. And I think it's really important that we can begin to expand our conception of how our personal joy is often a service to others. So you have no idea the difference that a truly happy person can make to a crowd. You know, a truly happy person, a person who has joy in their life, reverberates that vibration around everyone. It's so amazingly healing. So if just like dancing in your kitchen brings you joy, know that that joy that you harness, that joy that you cultivate, will serve others the minute you leave your door, the minute you're in contact with others. So really, this idea of connecting to joy as a service to others is so important. Yeah, and then the last part that I want to talk about with this theory that Earth is a school and we come here to learn and find our mission and follow this mission to the best of our ability, is that the answer to everything is love. It's very simple. Whenever there is a decision, whenever there is doubt, whenever there is fear, the direction we are told, the instruction that we're given, our get out of jail card, is always to connect to love. What would the most loving thing be here, right now? And this is interesting too, because sometimes we have a highly conditioned view of love. Sometimes we feel like, oh, love is to give everyone a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. Maybe love is to people please. So learning to really approach your life with a emboldened sense of love. Sometimes setting a boundary with someone is the most loving thing you can do. Sometimes putting yourself first, prioritizing your needs, is the most loving thing you can do. Sometimes walking away is the most loving thing you can do. So it's very important to kind of explore love. When we talk about love as the answer to everything, to know that this is the pure love. This isn't the kind of the toxic loyalty love. This isn't the family comes first love. This isn't the to death do us part love. This is the love as that effort that you make to help someone else grow. Sometimes that can be cutting someone off. Sometimes it can be you turning your back. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm going to put a link below to Dolores Cannon if you've not really heard of her before. And she explains all of this. It's quite fantastical, do you know what I mean? Because she's talking about aliens here, and she's talking about waves of people arriving on Earth. And you can take all of that with a pinch of salt if you want. I think the useful thing, though, and the useful thing with any sort of paradigm to explore reality is, does this bring you some relief from your suffering? So when I look at this and I listen to these things, like I'm someone who's been dogged with the feeling of not belonging much of my life, but this sense of like, okay, well maybe I'm not entirely from here. It brings me a certain amount of relief. And then when I'm feeling a little lost in life, when I'm feeling a little disconnected, if I remember, hey, I have a mission. What's my mission? Connect to my mission. And then when that mission feels clear in my body, I know exactly what to do next. And I know to just move forward with love. Yeah, to move forward with love. Cool, guys. That's everything. Enjoy. Thank you. And love you. Bye.